Hi, a lot of people are asking, what's a good soup for those struggling with IBS? Well, it's a great question, and it's one we're going to cover today. So many soups contain the common aromatics, onions, and garlic, and that is the biggest challenge of those following the low FODMAP diet. Hi, I'm Jessie Gutsu. I'm a registered dietitian, and I love to expand your diet through culinary education. I think when you understand your way around the kitchen and food, your diet feels expansive rather than restrictive, especially when you're following a low FODMAP diet. So what's a good soup for those struggling with IBS? Well, it's one, low in FODMAPs. FODMAPs are those types of carbohydrates that can cause digestive issues with someone with IBS. Things like cramps and gas can worsen with certain types of carbohydrates. This soup is a low FODMAP pumpkin soup, and it's really easy. It's one of my favorite fall flavors. It's nice and cozy and warm, and it's really simple. If you've been on a low FODMAP diet for even a day, you know that garlic and onions are your biggest challenge, especially when it comes to soups. In fact, cuisines across the world use garlic and onions as their base. And if you've been on a low FODMAP diet for even a day, you know that eliminating garlic and onions is one of your biggest challenges. So this recipe doesn't use anything unusual to mimic those great flavors. Instead, we use a basic low FODMAP whole food ingredient. A low FODMAP soup, like our low FODMAP pumpkin soup, is an excellent choice for those struggling with IBS because it avoids those high FODMAP ingredients. Instead, we use things like roasted carrots and pumpkin, which naturally are lower in FODMAPs. Now let's tackle another common question. Is pumpkin a low FODMAP food? Yes, it is. In fact, a lot of foods can be low FODMAP. It just depends on the amount. Pumpkin is low FODMAP when consumed at less than about 2/3 of a cup. And we've added carrots to the base, an even lower FODMAP food, to bulk it up and add some nice rich flavor. So let's get to the exciting part, making this low FODMAP pumpkin soup. First, we'll start with a little bit of oil in a hot pan. And then we're adding mustard seeds. So now that we have the oil in, we added the mustard seeds, and we want those to pop. So once they've all popped, they release a lot of nice flavor, and then we'll add in the remaining ingredients. I'm just going to remove the top here. Now I'm going to use the star ingredient that helps to mimic garlic and onion. It's a low FODMAP food. This is the leek, and we're just going to use the top green part of the leek. Usually this is discarded, but we're going to use it today because it's the lower FODMAP choice of the entire leek. Now, a leek is actually an allium, which is in the family of garlic and onions. And so it has a nice mild flavor like an onion, but it's low FODMAP. And all we're going to do is chop off the green part, and I'm going to chop off the end and discard that part. And then just slice through and make some nice small cuts, just like you were using a garlic and onion. And we'll chop those, and we're going to add them to the mustard seeds. So you're going to do a nice chop and then add those. This is about a cup of leek tops. Now, not only is a leek low in FODMAPs, but it actually has a decent amount of fiber, which is an unusual combination. So the leek actually contains something called inulin, which is a prebiotic, and it helps feed your gut microbiome. A really important factor when you're struggling with IBS and often limiting a lot of those fibers. So we'll let this cook for a little bit. So while this cooks down, I'm going to add a mix of spices. Here we have cardamom, cumin, coriander, and turmeric. Lots of nice warm spices. It really helps to take the place of a typical broth. And like I said, most broths or stocks are made with a combination of garlic and onions and other aromatics. So we won't lose that flavor because we have lots of spices. It's about 1 teaspoon of each of these. And I'm going to toss them in and stir them along with the leeks. That smells good. So as the star ingredient for our low FODMAP pumpkin soup, we are using canned pumpkin puree. The only ingredient here is 100% pumpkin. Make sure you're not getting a canned pumpkin for something, say, like pumpkin pie. Those will have sugars. So this is pumpkin puree. You can also choose a whole pumpkin. This is about equivalent to a 3.5-pound pumpkin. And if you want to roast your own pumpkin, you would just chop it up into decent sized squares, put the skin up and roast it, and then peel or cut the skin off and then puree it yourself. Either way is a fine option. This is about 3 cups. When you're between about 3 and 4 cups of pumpkin, that's perfect. And once these leeks are nice and cooked, we will add that pumpkin. So this soup, as I mentioned, uses a mixture of pumpkin and carrots. The roasted carrots are a great way to add some depth of flavor when you only have a pumpkin puree in a can. So when you get roasted carrots, they get some nice browning, they're super flavorful, and you reduce the overall FODMAP content with a lower FODMAP food like carrot. So I'm going to toss all of these into the soup, and these were roasted covered for about 25 minutes at 425. So I like to cover root vegetables with tinfoil when I roast them sometimes because it helps to keep some of that moisture in. Starchy vegetables like a carrot or a sweet potato cooks better at a lower temperature. It retains some of that sugar a little bit better that's naturally found in them. So it makes the whole dish a little bit sweeter and adds a little bit more flavor without doing anything else. So I've added the carrots here. We'll flavor them a little bit, and then I'm going to add in the pumpkin puree, and then I'm just going to use my handheld mixer. Now, you're welcome to spoon this out and transfer it to a blender. If it's a glass blender, even better. Or if you have another form like a food processor, you can do that as well. Or a handheld mixer is a great option. Now for our pumpkin. As you can see, it's full of color, which means there's tons of nutrition in here. There's beta-carotene, there's vitamin K and fiber, magnesium, potassium, and it's really quick to make this soup come together. I'm going to warm these ingredients together before I add in our final step, which is basic water. Now, there's tons of flavor already in here from all the spices, and this will sort of act like our broth. I have 4 cups here, and I'm just going to go until I feel like the mixture's mostly covered. It depends on how thick you want the soup and how much water you want to use. If you want a thicker soup, which I think this lends to, then use a little bit less water. So now that the pumpkin is warmed slightly, I'm going to add my water. And I'll stir that together. That pumpkin puree makes it come together really fast because it's already the consistency you're looking for. So I'm adding water about a cup at a time, just based on what kind of consistency I'm looking for. I would say a nice desirable consistency is like a thin pancake batter, but it's really up to you. Okay, so now that my soup is simmered for about 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to use the handheld mixer and go in and just blend it up until it's nice and smooth. I'm adding a little bit more water as I mix, just to get that consistency I'm looking for. And now I'm going to add a little bit of salt to season it, a generous teaspoon or so. And there you have it. Our low FODMAP pumpkin soup is ready to be enjoyed. Look at that color and that consistency. You can add some low lactose cream. There you have it. Our low FODMAP pumpkin soup. It comes together really fast. It's a great, creamy, warm soup on a cold fall or winter evening, and it comes together in a cinch. It's colorful, and you can freeze it for nights ahead. I hope you try it. If you found our answer to your question about low FODMAP pumpkin soup helpful, and you enjoyed this recipe, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe so that you don't miss any tips about low FODMAP recipes or other nutrition information. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss them in the future. Thanks for watching.